Welcome back to the U.S. Navy History Podcast. I am Dale, and I am joined by Christoph. Everybody.
Hey! Thank you, Captain. So good to be here.
Well, it's so good that you're here. Taking time out of your busy schedule
You know
of
what?
sleeping.
I was going to say I've upgraded you from pencil on the calendar to pen. So
Ooh.
you're no longer penciled in. You're penned in.
Now all we got to do is get you over to the digital side.
Give me a few years. We'll get there.
A few more years.
Just a few.
You're way late, but okay.
Oh, by then they'll invent some new technology. So I've been through the transition of cassettes to CDs to DVDs, Blu-ray, digital, and just when you think one technology, oh, finally, I can replenish my library, my lifestyle with this, it's gone. And so you want me to adopt some newfangled digital calendar?
Yeah, you just dated yourself.
Well, I'm a pretty good date.
All right. So, WW1.
Mm-hmm.
So, last time we had talked about the French mutinies.
Yeah, I was thinking about that all week. Some of my family heritage is from France. And one thing they are excellent at is protesting. I don't know if you've ever heard about how effective they are or how often they do it, but the transit workers will say, hey, everybody, we're not working, and nobody works, and nobody gets to work. And like, hey, just give them what they want so we can get to work. And they're like, fine. And I didn't know how far back this went. It seems like the French are very practiced at protest. And that was just another example from 100 years ago.
Yes, I think their protesting started when they protested against their king and
Oh, yeah,
monarch.
that's true. Bastille
I think
Day.
that's where it started.
Well, it could have been, I don't know. We can keep going back into history. I was thinking Charles Martel defending Tours against the Muslim conquest. I don't know if that counts as a protest, but anyway, let's focus on WW1.
Well, at least they're not chopping off heads anymore for the protests, and they're just walking around topless.
That's just true. Progress? Question mark? No, yeah.
All right, so we're going to get into the British and American people.
Oh.
On June 7th, a British offensive was launched on Messines Ridge, which is south of Ypres. This was to retake the ground lost in the first and second battles of Ypres in 1914. Now, in 1915, the Royal Engineer Tunneling Companies were formed, and they started digging tunnels under the ridge. They took about 500 tons of explosives and put them in about 21 mines under the enemy lines.
That's pretty cool.
After 4 days of heavy bombardment by artillery, they detonated 19 of these mines.
And what happened?
10,000 German deaths.
Oh my gosh. That's devastating. Can you imagine? I mean, that you could not anticipate that, I don't think, as a German military commander.
Yeah, that was very... They then again opened up on with artillery after detonating those mines. And then they took the hill in one day. Or ridge. They took the ridge in one day.
Woof. Yeah, after devastating the Germans with the underground, I'm very impressed. Just that from a strategic standpoint, I had not heard this story before, and so that really is surprising.
It wasn't inches this time.
Yeah,
They only had to detonate mines and kill 10,000 men.
That's
in one go.
10,000 men is a lot of men. I don't want to minimize the impact of that. That's super tragic. That's interesting that Hey, we're gonna form. Hey, what are you guys good at? We're good at digging. All right, have we got a
Yeah,
job for you? Get to digging.
yeah. So on July 11th of 1917, the Germans introduced a new weapon. You know what the weapon
Hold
is.
on. What was the date again?
July 11th, 1917.
1917. Was this gas? I mean, we've already talked about it a little bit.
It is gas,
Oh,
but this is delivered by artillery.
oh, yes.
So because of that, the artillery round is really just a small delivery device. This is when mustard gas is introduced.
Yeesh, is all I gotta say.
You want to describe mustard gas?
I not really. Well, so all I know is my history teacher in high school said that the best weapons from this era regarding gas didn't kill, they maimed. And so the
Hmm.
idea was incapacitate the enemy without killing them because that takes up more people because even the able-bodied would stop fighting to help the person that's wounded rather than if they're dead they would just keep fighting, and so that really would reduce the fighting effectiveness of your enemy.
Yes.
So that's, I think, the theory behind mustard gas. Can you describe what it does? Because I don't. I know you inhale it and you choke, right?
Well, it's not just inhaling, it's just being exposed to it that, is bad. And it doesn't happen immediately. It can happen within 24 hours.
Oh, that's right. I was confusing it with the chlorine gas. I'm like, yeah, chlorine makes you kind of
Yeah.
okay.
So the victims of this attack experience intense itching and skin irritation, which turns slowly into large blisters filled with yellow fluid. This is chemical burns.
Right.
The gas easily penetrates clothing. So it's not only the exposed skin that
Oh
gets
no.
contacted, it's all your skin. If your eyes are exposed, then they become sore. You start with conjunctivitis.
That's
Your
pink
eyelids then
eye.
swell, which means you're now blind. Thankfully, mostly temporary. And mitosis can also occur.
I'm not familiar with that. Meiosis. I know conjunctivitis is pink eye.
It is the excessive constriction of the pupil of the eye.
Ooh. So everything would seem very dark.
Yeah.
That's interesting. What a weird side effect.
If you inhale it, it causes bleeding and blistering in your respiratory system.
Ah. Well, that's pretty awful.
Yeah. So that is not something you want to be exposed to. But now that they can put it on in artillery, it allows heavy concentration of it to be used on selected targets.
Yeah.
Mustard gas can also linger for up to several days on site.
It seems like it'd be a good tool if you're trying to overtake a well defended position. Because if you're at a stalemate and then you deploy this stuff, and then it takes a little while to, like you said, within 24 hours, the symptoms appear.
Hmm.
Once that kind of starts getting a hold of your enemy, then you could move in with the appropriate distractions and minimize your losses. That's, I mean, from a very high level abstract way, it's genius. But then when you come down and bring the humanity back into it, that is really horrible.
It is very, very horrible. So on June 25th is when the U.S. troops start arriving. However, it took time to get them to the front line because they had to be additional training and they had to be equipped. So they really didn't start getting into the trenches until October.
Hmm.
But even though It took them a little bit of time to get to the front. Their allies knowing that they were there actually was very, very morale boosting.
Oh, yeah. Because at this point, you're 3 years into the war, and I'm sure the
Yeah.
fatigue is awful just from a nation perspective, not just the individual soldier. You have a lot of war weariness, and it's like, ugh, is this going to end? And then a new country with brand new troops comes in to fortify your cause. That would be very uplifting.
Yeah. So from July 31st to November 10th, the fight around Ypres continued. There was the Battle of Passchendaele.
Oh, Passchendaele.
You know, this battle had the original aim of capturing the ridges east of Ypres and then advancing to Rowlers and then Thorout, which was they wanted to close the main rail line that were supplying the German
Mm.
garrisons of the Western Front and the Bulgarian coast. And then they were like, there's also German submarine bases over there, so we got to get those as well. But it was then restricted to advancing the British army onto all of the ridges around Ypres because the weather was unusually wet.
And that's what I know of this section of World War One is Passchendaele in particular was just the muddiest place in the world where the mud was so viscous and the artillery was dropping nonstop. And so what would happen
Mm-hmm.
is all these shells would hit this soft ground, penetrate into holes that were who knows how many feet deep, and then the rain would fill those holes in, and you wouldn't know they were there. And so you're marching with all this gear in muddy terrain, and all of a sudden, bloop, you're gone.
Yep.
And trying to get out of a sheer walled hole with all this equipment isn't happening. And a lot of people ended up dying just because of the terrain, effectively.
Drowning on land.
Oh my gosh.
So Canadian veterans and other British forces took the village of Passchendaele on November 6th, despite the conditions you just described.
Yeah, I mean, whew.
The offensive produced a huge number of casualties on both sides for not much ground because the Germans were very, very resistant to this.
Yeah, I mean, if it's the main rail line that's supplying all their fortifications, that's definitely a point of focus of the defense.
Mm-hmm. But, I mean, it was very tactically important to capture this area. So, despite the weather, despite the casualties, they needed to take it.
Yeah.
Both sides lost a combined total of 500,000 during this
Gosh,
offensive.
that is massive.
British historians call this a bloody and futile slaughter, and the Germans call it the greatest martyrdom of the war. This is actually one of the two battles that earned the British Commander-in-Chief Sir Douglas Haig his controversial reputation.
That, I mean, gosh, it's easy for me to look back and go, what were they thinking? How could they do this? But the situation at the time on the ground was a reality they had to face, right? There is an
Mhm.
objective. We need to take it. What do we do? These are the tools we have. These are the guys we have. And gosh, what 500,000 for one little area.
500,000. So on November 20th, the British launched the first massed tank attack, which was during the Battle of Cambrai. The Allies attacked with 324 tanks.
Whoa.
A third of them were held in reserve. They also had 12 divisions that they sent in there against only 2 German divisions. Now they were like, we need to surprise the Germans, so we're not going to bombard them first.
Oh,
No artillery. What they did was that they put down a smoke screen.
that would be surprising to see because you think, oh, a bunch of infantry are about to pop out, or maybe cavalry. But to see mechanized units coming through the smoke would be very surprising.
Hmm. So the tanks carried fascines on the front of them to bridge the trenches and the 12-foot wide German tank traps. And those are just uh, bundles of brushwood and other material to strengthen make a bridge.
Okay.
There were also special grapnel tanks, which they used to pull away the German barbed wire.
Okay. Yeah.
Mm. The initial attack was very successful. The British penetrated further in 6 hours than had achieved in 4 months
Golly.
in Ypres, and only cost 4,000 troops.
Well, at this point, 4,000 sounds like a drop in the bucket.
It is,
Yeah.
especially since we just came off a 500,000.
Yeah. 4 months, you said. So they've been trying to fight over this for 4 months, and then just with these new tools, 6 hours.
4 months in Ypres, and then we got more done in 6 hours at Cambrai with the tanks.
That's interesting. So the British made tanks first. And I know that they were trying to keep this technology a secret because if the Germans found out about it, they could have some kind of anti tank defensive positions or structures or weapons.
And they did.
Yeah. And what I thought what was cool is the reason we call them tanks in the first place is because instead of using land ships, which is what they were originally called, they decided to call them water carriers or tanks, like a toilet tank. You know what I mean? It's like, oh yeah, it
Mm.
just carries water. That's all it's for. And so when you're shipping a container of tanks, it's just for water. Oh yeah, no big deal. And they wouldn't supposedly catch on that these are brand new mechanized armor vehicles.
Tanks for that.
You're welcome.
So the Germans responded with a counteroffensive on November 30th and drove the British back to where they started from.
Oh no.
Despite this, the attack had been seen as a success by both the Allies and Axis because it proved that tanks could overcome trench defenses.
Oh yeah. I mean the fact that it's a wall of steel coming at you with bullets, right? And then you get caught in barbed wire, so you're just an easy target. Those are the two, I think, main issues with trying to cross ground toward another trench, but the tank kind of nullifies both of those.
So this battle had also seen the first mass use of the German Strasstruppen,
Strasstruppen. So that would be Strass Street Soldier?
the stormtroopers.
Stormtrooper. Oh, I've seen them on Star Wars.
Not the same.
Okay.
But this was the first use of them using infantry infiltration tactics to penetrate the Allied lines, bypassing resistance and quickly advancing to their rear.
Interesting.
So we're going to go ahead and go into 1918. So after the successful tank usage, the Ludendorff and Hindenburg, they determined that the only opportunity for German victory now lay in a defensive attack along the Western Front during the spring before the Americans could make a significant push.
Yeah.
So on March 3rd of 1918, the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk was signed?
I don't know.
By Russia.
Because the communist revolution had occurred,
Uh-huh.
and they're like, you know what? We're a nation of the people, and the people don't want to fight in this war because that was just imperial wishy think. And so we're out. And the Germans are like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
thank goodness.
Yeah, the Germans were like, hey, that's 33 divisions. We can now send west.
Right.
Unfortunately, it was only 33 divisions because the Germans occupied so much Russian territory
Yeah.
that they still had to occupy it. So, but they did have an advantage now on the Western Front of 192 divisions versus the Allies having 178 divisions.
Oh. And it's so interesting that because you keep saying Germany has this and the Allies have that. So it's like one nation against multiple nations. Don't forget, Austria Hungary and the Ottoman Empire are on the side of the Germans, but they're not really in this fight for whatever reason.
Right. They're more worried about that, their one little area,
Mm-hmm.
which is leaving Germany trying to take the rest of Europe.
Yeah.
But this also allowed Germany to pull their veteran units from the line
Oh,
now that they had this influx of 33 divisions, and they made their veterans the stormtroopers.
that makes sense.
The Allies were still lacking a unified command system as well, which, gave them manpower and morale. The British and French armies were very, very beat up, and the Americans had not yet taken up their guns.
Right.
So Ludendorff was like, you know what? We need to launch a mass offensive against the Allies. Let's hit the British and Commonwealth really, really hard and just separate them from the French. Then we can drive them back to the Channel. This attack would combine the new stormtrooper tactics with ground attack aircraft, tanks, and carefully planned artillery barrages with gas.
Yeah. All the new technologies coming out at once.
So the first operation of the German Spring Offense, which was named
Operation Stein.
Michael.
Oh, that's right. I was close. I was really close.
But this offensive almost succeeded in driving the Allies' armies apart.
Wow.
They advanced around 40 miles during the first 8 days.
That's impressive.
This moved the front lines more than 60 miles west. They pretty much got within shelling distance of Paris for the first time since 1914.
That seems very close to victory. And who's familiar with how World War I ended up, I have to imagine what could have possibly distracted them from just going right into Paris.
Well, you still have to fight the people.
Well, yeah, true, but you've penetrated the Western Front to a humongous degree, and so I guess as you advance forward to your enemy's capital, your flanks are exposed by both sides of the army you just split, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so they can attack you somewhat freely, but you could argue that if you can move fast enough, and with these tanks, maybe you can. I don't know. That's not as
Well,
much of a problem.
well, as a result of this battle, the Allies finally agreed to a unified system of command. General who?
John J. Pershing.
Ferdinand Foch.
That's the one.
He was appointed commander-in-chief of all Allied forces in France. And now, since there was a unified command structure, they were now able to respond much, much, much more effectively to German drives. and the offensive turned into attrition.
Oh,
In May, the Americans finally began playing a increasing role. They won their first victory in the Battle of Cantonay. By the summer, 300,000 American soldiers were arriving each month.
wow.
A total of 2.1 million Americans would be deployed on the front before the end of the war.
That's a lot of guys in a short amount of time. And I have to
Yes,
wonder, because Germany's still doing unrestricted submarine warfare, shipping all those guys across the Atlantic is risky.
it is risky, absolutely. But countermeasures are being developed and used.
I think, like doing, what is the word? Convoys
Convoys,
are
yes.
a main part of that.
That is where convoying was introduced when they were doing the zigzagging courses and everything like that.
Hmm,
Yeah.
interesting.
So in July, Foch initiated a counteroffensive against the Marne assailant, and they eliminated the assailant by August. A major offensive was launched 2 days after the first one. This ended at the Aisne to the north. This attack included the Franco-British forces and was spearheaded by Australian Canadian troops with the support of 600 tanks and 800 aircraft.
Wow. That is a huge difference from the beginning of this conflict.
Mm-hmm. This was very, very successful, and this made Hindenburg name August 8th as the Black Day of the German Army.
Mm.
So at this point in time, uh, Germany's manpower was in dire straits. I mean, 4 years of war, and now you have a brand new country coming in to fight against you.
Oh, yeah.
Uh, the German economy and society were very strained. And now the Allies were fielding a total of 216 divisions against the Germans' understrength 197.
I mean, frankly, it's amazing the Germans are hanging in there. Because I think we mentioned in a previous episode how, from a colonial imperial perspective, Germany was way behind France and England. And so England and France are able to pull in all these troops from all these remote locations. Like you were just talking about Canada and Australia jumping in,
Mm-hmm.
and those are parts of the British Empire. And so they're able to jump in where Germany doesn't have really anything. And so who's trading with Germany at this point? How are they getting food or equipment or any of that?
That's why its economy was absolute crap time.
Right.
But of course, having all your people in one area instead of spread out across the world also makes your initial gains very successful. But this is the beginning of the 100 Days Offensive in August. And of course, this is just when the Germans' downfall just started compiling. German troops started surrendering in large numbers as the Allied forces started breaking the German lines. Prince Maximilian was appointed Chancellor of Germany in October and started negotiating the armistice. Ludendorff was forced to step aside and flee to Sweden because he was like, I don't want peace. I want to keep killing people.
Yeah, at some point you got to realize when the jig is up.
The German armies were pretty much in retreat when the German Revolution came in and put in government in power.
Oh, that's right. Yes. This was kind of the beginning of civilian-based control of the military, at least in Germany, because it was
Hmm.
all imperial and it's what we say goes, and the people had no voice. And so to do something like what the French did would have been unthinkable. But now it's a whole different ballgame.
Well, yeah, their imperial government, just had all these people killed.
Mm-hmm.
We're tired of it. We stop killing us.
There's a lot more of us than there are of you, so maybe cut it out and we'll be
Yeah.
cool.
So an armistice is signed that stopped all the fighting on the Western Front, which was Armistice Day. Do you know what date that was?
November 11th
It was November 11th, 1918.
at 11 a.m., I think. Or maybe it was 11:11 a.m. 11th hour on the 11th day, I remember. The
Yeah.
11th month.
Yeah. I believe it was 11 a.m. So the German imperial monarchy collapses because General Groner agrees that it needs to go away. They did not want a Russian like civil war
Oh, yeah.
that they just watched.
Yeah, it was devastating. And not only that, a lot of Lenin was seeking refuge in Germany. Like the idea of planting the seeds of the Russian Revolution was from Germany to undermine their fighting capacity. But then it kind of became what it became with the Communist Revolution, and their ideas started spreading into the Eastern Front of Germany. And so you're starting to get soldiers that are like, hey, why are we listening to the king? Or, why aren't we as the people doing what we're supposed to be doing? And
Mm-hmm.
they're like, this is getting a little crazy.
Yeah. All right, so that is pretty much the end of the Western Front. I have some casualty comparisons
Oh,
if you want to hear them from the major battles on that front.
I think we should go through them. It's going to be sad.
Oh, it's going to be extremely sad. So the Battle of the First Marne, the Allies suffered 263,000 casualties, and the Germans 220,000. The First Battle of Ypres, the Allies had between 126 to 161,000, and the Germans had 134,315. The Battle of Verdun. You want to take a stab at this one?
I want to say it's in the high 200,000s for both, for each.
You are incorrect. The Allies were somewhere between 400 and
Oh,
542,000,
dang.
while the Germans were between 355 to 434,000.
Ugh. Whoa.
The Battle of the Somme, that was another huge
Oh,
one.
yeah.
The Allies had around 623,000 casualties. The Germans had around 465 to 595,000 casualties. The second Aisne, relatively low, actually. The Allies only 118,000, and the Germans 40,000. The third Ypres, the Allies between 200 and 448,000. The Germans between 260 to 400,000. During the spring offensive, the Allies 851,000, with Germans 688,000. And then you want to take a stab at the 100 Days offensive?
I'm going to say 375,000 on the Allies, 295,000 on the Central Powers.
Really low ball.
Really? Oh. I guess it was 100 days.
The Allies 1.069 million. For the Germans 1.1 million.
I am astonished. Okay, so every one of these casualties at this point is a fighting age male. So that's probably, we'll say, even 16 to upper 20s. That's a generation of guys gone. Like that's not only is the country devastated economically and families and all of that, but just from I don't know, from Even like from a genetic standpoint, you're missing now all this information that just went away. It's mind-boggling, all the loss and all the different
Yeah.
dimensions.
Well, at least with the Allies, it's spread out between multiple countries on the
True.
Western Front.
Yeah, that's a good
On the
point.
Western Front, the German
Oh my
population.
gosh.
So in total of these 4 years of the Western Front, for the Allies, it's between 3.6 to 4 million casualties. And the Germans between 3.3 and 3.6 million casualties.
Wow. That's a large metropolitan area.
Oh, yes, easily, yes.
Like a Philadelphia or something like that.
Yeah, it's like San Diego being wiped out.
Yeah.
It's like Houston
Yeah.
is saying goodbye.
Yeah.
No more Houston.
Golly, that's a lot of people on each side.
Mm. Yeah, right. So next time we are going to go to the Eastern Front.
That's right. The Germans had a lot of losses there too.
It is on the Eastern Front. It is Russia and Austria-Hungary against Germany and Romania.
Okay.
No, I'm sorry. It's Germany and Austria-Hungary against Russia and Romania.
Okay. Well, tune in and
And
find out what happens.
I'll give you a little bit of a hint. The casualty rates are much, much higher.
Higher. Oh, gosh. Well, tune in, folks, and find out why.
All right. So we're going to end it there. We're going to honor one of our fallen angels with the help of HeroCards.us. And we are going to honor Senior Chief Petty Officer Christian M. Pike. His hometown was Peoria, Arizona. Served with the U.S. Navy, CTT, TAC 1781, SEAL Team 5, Naval Special Warfare Group 1. He received the Bronze Star with Valor and a Purple Heart. His date of sacrifice was March 13th, 2013, killed in action in Maiwand District, Afghanistan. He was 31. Cryptologic technician, technical chief Christian M. Pike was born in Berlin, Germany in 1981,
Oh.
thousands of miles from American shores. But he discovered at an early age he was part of a family that had a distinguished legacy of service within the United States military. His maternal grandfather had served in the Navy in World War II. His uncle, who became a major influence in his life, retired as a colonel in the Green Beret. His mother, Diana, spent over a decade in the U.S. Army's cryptologic service. His mother's duty assignments took the family from Vint Hill Farms in Warrenton, Virginia, to Fort Meade, Maryland, and then finally to Peoria, Arizona. As a student at Peoria High School, Christian pursued a variety of hobbies and interests, including cars and ceramics. He graduated in 2000 and went delayed entry into the United States Navy in 2001, joining a long line of family members who had served the nation. After basic training at Great Lakes, Illinois, he took advanced technical training at the Naval Technical Center Training Center at Corey Station, Pensacola, Florida, to become an electronic warfare technician, which has since been designated Cryptologic Technician Technical. His initial tour of duty was aboard USS Cleveland, LPD-7, making multiple Western Pacific deployments afloat. In July of 2007, he reported to Navy Information Operations Command, San Diego. During his tour, he supported Navy cryptologic operations in the Pacific and volunteered to deploy to Iraq in support of Marine combat operations. In 2011, he reported Naval Special Warfare Support Activity 1 in Coronado, California, from which he deployed in March 2013 to Afghanistan, assigned to Echo Platoon, SEAL Team 5 in support of Operation Enduring Freedom. As a highly trained specialist, Chief Pike's job was to use a wide range of finely honed cryptologic skills to gain critical intelligence on real time enemy movements and actions. As this was the case with everything he did in his life, on the battlefield, Christian exhibited a passion for his work, and his efforts played a critical role in helping his unit to achieve their objectives and save lives. Chief Pike's longtime friend, Chief Petty Officer John P. Goodston, noted that he knew how to get the best of someone. On March 10th, 2013, Chief Pike and his unit found themselves in a fierce battle with a large number of insurgents. Before making contact with the enemy, Christian was able to provide a warning of their approach. Despite this knowledge, the group was badly outnumbered, and during the ensuing fighting, Christian was seriously wounded. He was evacuated and airlifted to Landstuhl Regional Medical Center in Germany, but died days later. From the time he was growing up until his final moments, Chief Petty Officer Christian Pike remained true to his family's legacy of service and sacrifice. His devotion to his fellow service members and the finest traditions of the United States Navy never faltered. His life was exemplified by honor, devotion to duty, and the unbridled joy and happiness that he brought to his family and friends. At Christian's memorial service, Diana Pike noted with great pride that her son had led a life he chose. He was so happy, and happiness is all any mother would want for her children. He loved his job, he loved the Navy, and he loved his teammates. For his heroic achievement in connection with combat operations against the enemy, Chief Pike was posthumously awarded the Bronze Star with Valor. He was the first SA-1 service member to be killed in combat while supporting Operation Enduring Freedom. So, Chief Petty Officer Christian M. Pike, we thank you.
Thank you.
All right, XO, take us out.
All right. Well, thank you, listeners, for spending your time with us today, learning a little bit more about World War I. If you want to get a hold of us, there's a couple of ways to do that. You can email us. The email address is usnavyhistorypodcast@gmail.com. We're also on x.com or twitter.com or xTwitter, if you prefer. Our handle there is hold on, how does mess this up? US Navy History Pod. That's it. I'm 97% confident that is it. Listen to the last show because I was a lot more confident, probably 100% confident in that one. Anyway, to avoid any confusion, you can just open the show notes and there's a link there to that handle. So you can just do that. And while you're there, you can also see that we have a Discord server. And in that Discord server, there are folks that talk about things. We're there too, Dale and myself. And I don't know, we can share maps or pretend that we just survived Passchendaele and we could toast each other or something like that. Anyway, lots of options. Finally, if you could rate and review us, that really helps. You could tell a friend, a family member, a coworker. Maybe they want to hear about what we're talking about. That's why we're here. So thank you again for choosing to listen to us. Back to you, Dale.
Well, with that, we're going to wish you guys fair winds and following seas. Goodbye.